Alright, welcome back to this walkthrough of Divinity Original Sin 2. Last time, we were on this boat where we were taken captive by all these guards, which we have now started a fight with. Since last time, the whole rest of the ship has been aggroed, which actually kind of saves us some time. Mumbo has delayed his turn. He's going to be way at the end of the order, and Pyramus is in a bind over here. So, what we're going to do is have Pyramus come right on through this door, stop his movement there, and then close that door. These guys over here now are not going to want to step on this fire to attack him, so they're going to waste their time kind of going over to Mumbo, where they're not going to really be able to do much damage to him. Pyramus is going to get shot a little bit by this archer. Ooh, unless she spends her whole turn eating? Alright, he got shot once. That's fine. He can take that. He can take one arrow. What is he? He's tougher than Boromir. He could take a few arrows. Alright, now we're going to have these guys take their turns. Everybody else on the ship, magisters, other prisoners. Now, if you used an origin character at the beginning of the game, some of these guys might not be showing up here. You can select to start as the Red Prince, or as Ifen Ben Mezd over here. Get his name highlighted. Oop. Ifen Ben Mezd. Maybe you started as Sabile, maybe you started as Losa or Beast, or even Fane over here. But if you didn't start as any of them, they should all be on the ship. Alright, and the turn order is up top here. 99% of the time, it's going to go somebody on your team, somebody on the other team, somebody on your team, somebody on the other team. Regardless of their initiative, it's going to go every other team. If there's more than one team, like right now these yellow highlighted guys are neutral to us, it should alternate between the teams pretty evenly. There are some instances where combat will have a third party join halfway through. Might not get a quite even split then. So we got Losa going, then Sabile, and then we'll be back to Mumbo. Alright, Sabile's coming over here and throwing. Oh no, she's using backlash. Alright, alright. And now she's throwing at point blank range. Alright, we're up to Mumbo. Now, if you watched the first video, you know we left off with Mumbo being hastened so that he can get an extra action point and he can move farther with each of those action points on his turn here. So, we're going to have him move on over here. Now, my pro gamer move from earlier was to put blood on the floor over here. Now, Fane happened to put fire here. We could use fire for this. But since I put the blood down, we're going to show you the initial plan. The reason we put blood on the floor there is so he can summon his incarnate on that blood. Now, when you summon an incarnate on any kind of surface, they get extra powers based on that surface. And when you summon them on blood, they get Mosquito Swarm, which lets him do a single target ranged attack. Now we're going to have the incarnate come right over here to the person who last time we discussed briefly was the murderer on the ship that was being investigated. As soon as she takes damage, that's Wendigo here, as soon as she takes damage, she's going to nuke the whole floor, and we get experience for all those kills because we're in combat with them. So here she goes, Source Blast right there, boom, knock us all out, and we got 975 XP because we had combat with all those people. Now, if you didn't enter combat with all those people and you just played through here normal, like you probably would your first time if you haven't seen this or a similar video, you wouldn't get that 975 XP. That's almost 1,000 XP for combat where we did very little actual fighting. Now we're going to come over here and we're going to loot all these bodies because we went through the trouble of talking to them, checking their inventory to get more loot. Now you're not going to get every bit of... You're not going to get everything from their inventory when you checked it, but you will get more if you opened their inventory and checked it beforehand. Now, I'm going to have Pyramus come back over here. I'm going to have him equip that second dagger we found, and again, we're not going through this for morality's sake. We're going through here for maximum XP. So, Magister Siwan, the one at the very beginning, didn't die from that Source Blast, which means we didn't get any experience from her. So, we're going to correct that mistake, and we're going to just, hit her while she's down. And there's 100 XP, and then we loot and we get some of the stuff that was in her inventory. Not a whole lot, but more than it would have been had we not checked it. Now we're going to go through, get the rest of these bodies to loot. Now, we did kill Magister C1 for the extra XP, but we are not going to be killing all of the other origin characters that are lying around here. Alright, and the reason for that is we get no XP out of it. You do get some nice loot, you know, you get a resurrection scroll from each of them, and then you get some clothing. Real quick, you're going to want to grab some beer on one of these tables. You don't need a lot, like 1 or 2 will work. Not that it's super important, but there is a quest later. Although we could use the wine here. Anyway, we're gonna grab some stuff, and if you see food, grab the food. It's a good healing item. You know how RPGs work. You get stabbed, you eat an apple, your stab wound heals up from the apple. Alright, science. Now this chest here gives you weapons based on your starting class. That's why we had Conjurer, so they would get 2 shields at the beginning, and then the 2 fire wands. We happen to get extra stuff whenever you have more than... The more starting characters you make at character creation, the more extra random stuff they throw in there. So before we do anything, we're going to equip those shields to both of them. Quick, early, easy armor. And then give them both the fire staff, or fire wand, sorry, not a staff. And then Pyramus is going to get a bucket on his head, because the bucket has -1 initiative, and I want to make sure that Mumbo is moving before Pyramus in combat. Alright, now, there's fire there, there's water here. Now let's say you didn't get somebody with rain, you want to put out that fire. You can just take that bucket, chuck it on the fire, bucket breaks. It had water in there, that's why I had a big water droplet on there. And that'll put out the fire for you. Now, if you're doing this with only 1 character from character creation, this dog can be pretty tough to fight, especially if you have a melee-focused build. But we have 2 people, and they're both kind of magic-focused, so this shouldn't be a very difficult fight for us. So we're just going to start fighting here again. I do not advocate harming dogs, of course, but this is a game where you get XP for kills, and we are going to go for max XP. Now this dog's going to periodically get the wet status because there's water pouring in on the boat. And when he's wet, they get minus water resistance. Alright, so we're going to summon a water incarnate there. Unfortunately, water incarnates don't get any extra attacks when they're summoned on water, but they do get a healing ability. Now, if you picked an undead character in your party, you're going to want to be careful with that, because healing abilities will actually hurt undead. However, you can use that to your advantage later on. When you fight undead, you can use that healing to harm them. We'll probably showcase that at some point later in the video. And quick note, we got electrified water here because I used that electrical blast. And then we breathed fire on the dog, so that electrified water becomes an electrified storm cloud, which can also, as you see, apply the shocked status to other entities. And if they're already shocked, or if they're already wet, then another application of shocked will stun them, like the incarnate there who cannot move. There he goes, he shook it off after a little bit. Alright, moving on, loot the room a little bit more. Alright, another easy combat coming up right over here. We got 2 Magisters in this room. One of them has no armor, one has very little armor. So we're going to have the Incarnate bust down this door, because he deals a decent chunk of damage. You can bust that door down in just a few seconds. It might take a little bit longer if using a controller setup. And then we're going to have Pyramus boost up Mumbo's initiative even more. And then Mumbo's going to come over here. Oh, no, that's Pyramus. Well, Mumbo can still come over here. And if you have low persuasion, won your way through. If not, just hit 3 there, draw your weapon. We want to fight them. We don't want to avoid this conflict. We want maximum XP. I keep wanting to say HP. I don't know why. And Encourage right there, that's a buff to all your main damage dealing attributes. I like using that pretty early on, give everybody a little buff. Also buffs your constitution, which means more HP, and it was HP that time, not XP, like I've been almost accidentally saying. Alright, now he's on fire, which means he is going to have lower fire resistance, so let's breathe some fire on these bad boys, and that should, yep, burn them both to a crisp. We're all done. Now, most of the loot that pops up in this game is randomly generated. This shelf here, though, always will give you a free resurrection scroll, which is kind of nice early game, because early game, if you don't know what you're doing, you haven't played before, even with a walkthrough, you might do something, a little slip up, and you might find yourself with a dead companion. So resurrection scrolls are helpful in those situations. Now, coming up here, we're going to do a neat little trick that you can only do at the beginning of this boat here, and then you won't be able to do it again until, what is it, Act 4? Act 3, depending on how you number the acts. Officially, there's 3 acts. Most people split it into 4 when they talk about sections of the game. I, personally, like to split it into 4 because there's 4 big zones that you use. So anyway, the thing we're about to do here, you won't be able to do it again until Act 4, which is going to be about the last 25% of the game. Well, that's 15%. I don't know. It is near the end of the game. You'll be able to do this again. And it's a long game. It's going to be a while before we get there. Now, before I even make any kind of contact with this door, I'm going to split this party up, and I'm going to save here because I might mess up on this. I've done this a bunch of times, but I could still mess up. You should save here too. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to run in, we're going to grab these 2 barrels of Deathfog. If you have an undead character and you have points in strength, try to go for 3. Why not? You're not going to lose anything if you're undead. If you're not undead, don't risk it. Now, I put a point into telekinesis right here just to make this part easier. You don't need telekinesis, but it is much easier to do this with telekinesis. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a bedroll there, have Pyramus hit himself with that piece of mind, and hit himself with hasten. And then we're going to click on that door right there. When they're in conversation, your buffs do not go away. They stop draining their timer. So while he's sitting there, we're going to use Encourage right there. And the reason we're doing this is to give him +3 strength. That'll make him strong enough to pick up these barrels. Even with telekinesis, to move around with them, you need strength. So we're going to, again, just kind of one our way through this conversation, and then click on that barrel. Keep clicking until he starts to run, and then click the second one. If you don't get there fast enough, these tentacles will bust those barrels open, and this will happen to the other 2 barrels. If this happens, Deathfog will hit you. If Deathfog hits you, you die. That's why it's called Deathfog. You breathe it in, kills you. It's not fun, especially if you're playing on honor mode. The few instances of the game where there's a Deathfog scenario that kills you, it's a really, really upsetting way to end an honor mode run. We don't want to see that. Now we're going to come over here, loot some more stuff. We don't need to necessarily loot everything. It's the beginning boat. Not all the loot's going to be good. If you made a character with Lucky Charm, you might want to just loot everything, because you could get some extra gold, maybe some decently powerful starting equipment. You'll outlevel it very soon anyway, but hey, good equipment's good equipment, right? Alright, now, even though Pyramus is so encumbered, he can't move right now. When you load up a new area, by going up these stairs, for example, hey, if they're chained together, they'll come up with you, whether they're encumbered or not. Now, because I'm not going to use the Incarnate for a whole lot of this game, I'm going to show you early on here as much of it as I can. So we're going to summon on Poison there, show you what the Poison Incarnate offers. And then we're going to encourage, buff him up a little bit. Now the Poison Incarnate gets a Poison Dart. It's got a small radius, not as big as Fireball that we saw earlier, but it's decent. Can hit both of those guys without them moving. I'm going to walk up here just to kind of block his path. If he tries to run past, I'll get an opportunity attack. It's nice. Alright, now I cannot move with Pyramus because I'm encumbered, but I can shoot this guy, and he's already wet from the rain, so boom, shock from that power plus wet. He is stunned. No turn for you. And if I shoot this guy with my fire wand, it'll ignite the poison that was underneath him. Alright, good little wombo combo there. Now, you don't typically want to hit burning enemies with ice powers because they will no longer be burning. So I'm going to avoid hitting that one. Just freeze this guy, take away his turn. Now, it did splash damage a little bit on him, but I have a fire wand, so I can do that, and he'll be burning again. Burning and poisoned is a nice combo to throw on your enemies because then they're going to take just a lot of damage at the beginning of their turn. Very convenient. Alright, and then we're going to kill this little bug over there. Ooh, almost. Now we're going to kill this little bug over here, and we are done with that combat. Now, real quick here, we're going to grab some stuff from these guys. Alright, now we're going to save right here. And we'll finish up the boat on the next video, and then we'll start the real game on Fort Joy. Alright, thanks for watching. This has been episode 2 of Divinity Original Sin 2 2020 edition. See you next time.